Chicago has seen a spike in crime after a week when multiple children have become victims of gun violence. The latest shooting happening on the city's southwest side where a 3-year-old girl was shot in the chest. She is recovering. Police are investigating whether that shooting was in retaliation.
But the question remains, how do we help solve these relentless problems? Dr. Robert Renteria is a former gang member, now an internationally award-winning Latino author, and a recipient of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Award. Dr. Renteria, thank you so much for joining us by phone today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
There was a time when gang members would not use children, wives, girlfriends, or parents as retaliation. Have things changed?
Well, I think that we talk about retaliation. It's not retaliation that they're after, it's revenge. But it's the revenge that's misguided because they want revenge for being born. You know, we have some serious problems in the world, and our kids are walking around lost in a culture of darkness, which is why we need to do something about it.
So to that extent, we often hear from activists in the community that they need more investment, we need more funding. Cities and state governments, counties are strapped. Is it time for private sector, big corporations to step up to fill that void?
You see, we have money for wars and can't feed the poor, right? And there's children, teenagers, adults walking around lost in a culture of darkness. We spend millions and billions of dollars every year on what's called so-called best practices that aren't working. But it begs the question, if it's not working, why do they do it? They're doing it because of unions, contracts, and paychecks. It's more of the same. We're teaching the test. We're not teaching to learn. And we're failing our children by processing them through the schools with the 7th grade reading level. You have to approach this from outside the box, which is what the work that I'm telling you we need to do it through collaboration. Right?
Outside the box.
Alone.
You say
Yes.
Outside the box. Tell us how to approach this outside the box.
Listen, over the last 12 and a half years, I've invested over $350,000 of my own money in the future of our education for our kids to bring them tangible and culturally relevant teaching tools that teach these kids that gangbanging and violence is not a lifestyle, but a death style. And the ultimate weapon is not a loaded gun, but an educated mind. It's about doing a paradigm shift to rehumanize these kids, to give them hope. And that's going to come through outside resources, like getting companies on the outside to get involved. Like in Chicago right now, we have Papa John's is donating money to help inner city kids with educational tools that we provide. We got Overvice Ice Cream as one of the partners who's involved, and several others who are getting involved to make sure that these kids have a chance.
Jobs are so important for some of these young people. How do you get to them and say, look, there's so much better for you waiting on the other side?
There are programs available that have job readiness programs where corporations are stepping up to guarantee kids jobs and keep those jobs. But we have to make sure that the right frame of mind and they're prepared to keep those jobs, right? And it's not about giving people more money, right? It's about giving them a hand up, right, rather than a hand out.
Dr. Renteria, in a time of COVID, this pandemic, it seems like the violence is rising rather than tapering. Why do you feel that is?
I did a conference with a bunch of kids the other day from Chicago, and they're stressed, right? Think about it. Tonight, we're going to go home to a good meal. There's kids that are going to go home tonight that don't have any food, don't have electricity, don't have clean clothes. So the fact that they can't get out and try to make some money, I'm not saying that's the sole answer, but these kids, they're hopeless, and hopelessness will kill somebody. It's about, you have to empower these kids to give them hope. And it's easy to say we need better parents, and you're right. But some of these kids don't have parents, and we have babies raising babies, right? So the community needs to get involved. And I want to say that although I can appreciate a march and a prayer vigil and a panel discussion talking about statistics, that's not going to change the problem, right? We have to put money towards this thing and fix it.
And I also hear you saying that more people who are willing to mentor need to step forward.
Yes, I just partnered with Blue Martini Gaming out of Las Vegas, and they have virtual gaming for kids on a global platform. Right? I'm working with the World Boxing Council, the WBC, who mentors boys and girls in 165 countries around the world. There are people out there who have the keys and the resources to contribute to our communities. But we work in silos, right? It's very territorial. They don't want to work together because if we fix the problem, people lose their jobs, and that's a fact. So we have to make sure that we find people who are mind-like, who want to go out there and change the landscape for our youth across America, around the world. Here in Chicago, people work in silos, and they don't want to work together. They're mistaking motion for action. and it can't be that way. We have to have action steps. What are the outcomes of a meeting from a march? Give a kid a shirt or a basketball, call it a day? That's not going to change anything. These kids are starving for something that they can relate to.
Can Chicago's mayor, can Chicago's police superintendent get a handle on this?
I think that the ideology is that it's done through a textbook, and it has to come through practical application. So putting people in a position to do a job that they've never done before. I'm not taking a shot at the police department or the mayor. What I'm saying is that we have to work with outside groups, right? So can they get a handle on it? Yes, if they partner. I've reached out to the mayor's office, and I've also reached out to the chief of police.
What was your response from them?
Dead telephones, and it's been that way for years. You know, we have to work together. You know, the response can't be that, hey, Mike, you're not one of us. Or Patrick, you're not one of us. Or Robert, Dr. Robert, you're not one of us. You're not born here. You're not from here. And that happens a lot because people are very territorial. And it's a lot of one-sided, views about how something's supposed to get done. Bringing in the National Guard or bringing in President Trump or anybody like that, that's not going to solve the problem. That's a good photo op. That's not solving anything.
So you agree with partnership and money and things like that into the communities. Dr. Renteria, we thank you so much for joining us today. Be safe, be well.